Hello and welcome to, finally, episode 4 of Renting an Old Haunted Cottage. Now, I'm incredibly excited to bring you this episode. One, because it's been 3 months since episode 3. I'm so sorry, I didn't even realise it had been that long. But I promise that those of you who are still with me and haven't unsubscribed, you are in for a treat because do you remember? Probably not, but in February, my laptop that I usually work with completely went. So I had to buy a new one. And within that, I then bought a battery just to hopefully get it going and find some pictures to take off of it. Anyway, long story short, I thought I had lost all of my pictures from that laptop. One of which being photographic evidence of something that happened in this cottage. And I'm happy to obviously reveal that I found the image the other day. I could not believe that I had not been as silly as I thought and had backed it up on another USB stick that I just didn't even realise. So, I'm going to tell you about that story and, of course, reveal the photo that goes with it. And again, I'm just so happy that I haven't lost this image. Like, it's not a shadow man, it's not an apparition, so don't get too excited. But you're gonna enjoy it, right? You can't deny what is there, and when I tell you about what was happening before the photo was taken, I'm sorry, but some of you that do believe are gonna say that this is quite clearly some evidence. So I have looked at episode 3 to see if I needed to sort of carry on or anything like that. But to recap, I spoke about John having the night terrors that now were affecting him because we had cast the pilgrim woman out of the house by getting some sage and clapping, opening the window, doing whatever we did, right? Salt and all of that. So that happened, but he started then getting nightmares of this pilgrim woman coming in and basically giving him night terrors. So I ended the story, I ended the episode with that story, and it doesn't follow on, but of course I have many stories to go. So I'm going to talk about one that happened, and then we're going to get into the big story. Well, I mean, it's not even big, but just the one that has the photo attached to it. So, if you haven't already, you know the drill. Pause the video, go and get yourself some snacks, some beverages, come back, sit down, and hopefully be ready to enjoy the next episode of Renting an Old Haunted Cottage. So, for this section, I'm going to take you forward into 2017. So by this time, we had been living in the house for 3 years. And of course, a lot of stuff had happened. But in 2017, for those of you who don't know, that was the year that I started my social media presence, if you will. And I joined a website called younow.com, and that was a streaming website. So I basically did what I'm doing right now, but just live, and there was a chat of people who were watching and having conversation. Within this website, obviously, you get to know people quite well, and it just so happens that we actually had somebody come over. So this gentleman here, he went by the name of Awesome Jeremy Drew. You can see it says live on You Now. This is a very, very old picture. So those of you who have been or know me from those days, you'd probably get nostalgia right now. This is mine and John's house. So you can see the background here. You can see the fireplace, right, that I spoke about in episode 1, and here you can now see that it has the wood burning stove because we've been there for 3 years. But there's a little bit of context there about what the house kind of looks like. This man right here, he flew all the way from Missouri. Yes, you heard that right, Missouri in America. So me and John ended up driving down to Gatwick Airport and meeting Jeremy and bringing him back to the house where he stayed for no less than 12 days. Yeah, that was a battle in itself. Americans, our walls are not as thick as yours. So, when we were asleep or trying to sleep, of course, the time zones were different and he hadn't got used to it yet. So, when we're going to sleep, he's still up, talking to people on the phone. But I digress. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the ghost shit that happened in the 12 days that Jeremy stayed with us. So there were 2 bedrooms upstairs. There is the main bedroom that me and John had, and there was a smaller bedroom that was literally adjacent, which was the spare room that Jeremy stayed in. Now, I can't tell you whether he heard the same noises as myself, John, and previous people like John's sister, as I spoke about in a previous episode, because he wasn't trying to go to sleep at the same time as us. So he never said that he ever heard anything, but he definitely felt things. Jeremy was incredibly sensitive. I mean that in like a good way and bad way. So there were some things that he could be sensitive about in life, right? And so that, again, if somebody is quite a sensitive person, I do believe that they are susceptible to seeing more things and having more experiences. And so he felt some energy. You know, he did just make comments when he'd woke up, and, you know, we never opened the conversation, said, oh, do you feel anything? Like, because to me and John, we just live with it, right? So it's not something that you wake up and go, oh, did you hear something? Like, we haven't gone to stay in a haunted house as a like event. Do you know what I mean? So for us, we're just going to sleep, waking up and doing our daily thing. So when Jeremy comes down, like in the morning or afternoon, usually afternoon when he woke up. So when Jeremy would come downstairs, we'd get into conversation about whatever, and we'd be like, yeah, I did feel like some weird, like whatever. Or you could see a few people did mention shadows, and we will get into another story where I myself and John experienced it. So I did believe when he told me that he could see like just shadows moving around, like just out of the corner of his eye, he would just see something like shh, and they'd be like, what was that? And obviously it wasn't there. So we're like, all right, cool. Well, that's just usual shit, basically, mate. Like, you know, you just have to deal with it. And he knew anyway, because you got to remember, we'd been in the house for 3 years by now. It's not like we hadn't spoke to our friends online and said, yo, we live in a haunted house. Like, they also were able to see things or hear things if I was to put up like a live camera 24 hours, right? But I didn't do that. Like, I just obviously went live like normal, just normal life. I didn't base my house as content. Like, that wasn't it, you know? I was the content. So moving on to a night that I will never ever forget. And I doubt Jeremy would ever forget this as well. I do have him on Discord. I haven't spoken to him in years, so I hope he's doing really well. But I know that he would remember this if I brought it up. So, one evening, myself, John, and Jeremy are sat in the living room, which is the room with the fireplace, okay? And if you watched the video where the episode where I showed the video footage, I had some old video footage that I had like a camera in the corner, and I just have it on at night to watch the dogs or whatever, right? Just a security camera. That picked up like some activity, so I showed you guys, but I showed you the layout of the house, right? So where you saw the fireplace in Jeremy's picture here, opposite that is now where the radiator cover was, and the door towards the front door, and then the other door towards the other room, and then the kitchen door, right? Sorry if you're not with me here. So we were in that main room where the fireplace is, and Jeremy and John are sitting on the sofa on like this wall, okay? And then there is like a floor footstool cushion, quite a big square thing that was in the middle that the dogs used to sit on and sleep on, but I was sitting on that in the middle, okay? So those two are together and I'm sitting in the middle. We're still like in the same room, obviously, but we're just separated. Now, I can't for the life of me remember what we were doing, like, and I mean the details as in Were we trying to talk? I remember it was dimly lit. Okay, these are the core memories that I have. Dimly lit. Those two sitting there, me sitting on the sofa bit, and the door to the other room open, because it always used to freak us out because we could see this dark room. Because like, so I imagine the sofa's here, yeah, and you look to your right, all you'd see is darkness down there if you didn't shut that door. So we usually would shut that door. However, this night the door was open so that, you know, if we saw anything, I don't know, whatever. That door was open, the kitchen door was closed, the other door to the front was closed. So it was just that little bit. And then I don't know what we were doing. I don't know if we were like, oh, is there anyone here? I can't remember any of that. All I do remember is there is two things that happened. One to me and one to Jeremy. And I'm shaking because it brings it back to me, mate. Like, it didn't even happen to me, but it's crazy. So those two are sitting on the sofa and like, whatever, we were talking, I don't know. And all of a sudden, Jeremy starts crying. Just starts crying out of nowhere. And we're like, mate, are you alright? And he's like, I can feel a young girl. She is hugging my legs. And I'm like, what? Like, what? And John's like, what? And he is crying, like sitting there on the sofa, with his legs like this, just on the sofa, crying, saying that there is a young girl hugging his legs. Excellent. I've never seen or heard of children ghosts in the house, so thanks, Jeremy. First time for everything. There we go. So he started getting all emotional and everything. And we're like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm all right. I just don't know, like, how to deal with it, basically. He had that episode go on, got over it, everything was okay. And then they're still sitting there and I'm on the pad again. Now, I should have brought up the footage again to show you, but I was sitting directly towards the radiator and that wall. Okay, so where on the old footage, if you've seen it, I hope you're with me, that wall there and then the radiator underneath, right? White wall. I was sitting, like, watching that wall for some reason, or I was facing that wall. Here's the weirdness. Here is the weirdness. I started seeing with my actual fucking eyes, like, not mind's eye or anything. No. I was actually fucking seeing, like, this. I can't even describe. The only way to describe it is it was like an energy wave, right? That was like this. And it was like a shadow energy wave that was going across the fucking wall. I don't mean to swear. I've done really good with not swearing, but I'm sorry. It was going across the wall, right? And I remember, core memory of being like this. Rubbing my eyes, being like... And I turned to those two and I went, bro, guys, can you see this? And they were like, what? And I was like, can you see, like, on the wall, like this? And then it stopped when I was saying it, right? It stopped. And I was like, no, wait. I was like, please just keep looking at this wall, right? Please just keep looking at this wall. And they were looking at the wall. And then I'm like, it's there. Can you see it? And they are like, no, we can't. And I'm like, no, you've got to be able to see this. Like, no, you're not concentrating hard enough. Please tell me you see this, right? Because I've never in my whole life seen anything like that. I could see fucking waves across my wall that weren't there, but I could see it. And they couldn't see it, right? So I'm pleading with them to say, please, like, please make sure, please, look, can you see it? And after, like, the third, fourth time of me pleading with them and them saying, Katie, we can't see it, what then happened was I got so scared that I was seeing it and they weren't. All I remember is I had my dressing gown on. Those who know me know that I just always wear my dressing gown. I'm sitting on the big pad. I pulled my legs up like this. I pulled the hood over my face and I went, no, make it stop. And with that, Jeremy stood up and went, right, hands on his hip. Remember, it was like fucking yesterday. Right, you're scaring Katie. Stop it. And with that, bosh, all went. Never, ever, ever saw it in my life again. Ever, never, ever. Gone. Never been able to see these waves again. Like, so he stopped it. Like, I don't know what the hell that was, right? But it was good energy, okay? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people who be like, oh, it was really bad energy. But it wasn't. It was a good energy. Like, and I say shadow, but I don't mean like dark shadow. I just mean that I could see it on the fucking wall. Like, I can't describe it to you anymore. Like, I don't know if you're going to hear me going back here, but imagine that's a white wall. I could just see, like, waves going past the wall. It disappeared in the air. I couldn't see it in the air, right? Super important to know. I could not see this in the air. It was only on this white wall that I could see it. And then when I tried to, like, follow it, it was gone. And so I've never ever witnessed anything like that in my life, and I've never seen it since. But I went onto Google the next day, obviously, and typed in what I thought I saw. And I used the term energy waves because that's what it told me. I remember going onto Google and being like, weird wave on wall or something like that. And bosh, something came up with someone talking about being able to see and fucking describe to a T the exact thing that I saw. And they said that it was in a dimly lit room, and they were like inviting, like they were very spiritual anyway, and they were very accepting of it, and that happened, and that it was a pleasant experience. And so I sat there and went, oh no, does that mean like now I'm never going to see it again, now that I understand what it is? I guess. And so I'm really glad at the time that Jeremy did that, because you have no idea how scared I was. You have no idea how scary it is, like, unless you do, yeah, to be seeing something when you ain't on drugs. I've never taken a psychedelic in my life, okay? So I'm not sitting on acid or tripping on nothing like that. And you're seeing something with your actual, like, you're actually seeing it, and no one else can see it. Like, that scared the shit out of me. But as soon as he stood up and went, right, blah, 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 bam, gone. So quick. So he had an experience with this kid that I will never forget. I had this experience with these energy waves that I will never, ever forget. But we're going to move on to what happened when my friend came over and we started talking about her very recent past boyfriend / ex. So, to summarise, because I wasn't aware, so it's going to be hard to tell this story, I don't speak to this person anymore. We'll call her Jane. I don't speak to Jane anymore, but I used to be very good friends with this person, and when a mutual friend of ours, Alan, passed, Jane told me that there was more than met the eye when it comes to their friendship. So she revealed that actually they had been together and then it got rough, they separated, but they always still like had this runaway dream, I guess, where they were gonna get each other sorted out together, then come back and just run away together or whatever, right? A loaf or whatever. So when Alan passed, this was a huge hit for Jane, obviously. But Jane was in a relationship at that time with somebody else, so she kind of wasn't able to relay how badly it had hit her, because everybody kind of just thought that they were just, friends like normal. So Jane would come over to mine and John's house and we would chill, we would talk about Alan, she would say to me, all of the things that they did together that I didn't even know. So it's just a nice way for her to reminisce and just basically tell me the situation. So there are 2 stories that relate to Jane and Alan. And I suppose I should just tell them both here, really, because otherwise it just won't make sense. This didn't happen in 2017, by the way. This was probably earlier on. I just wanted to mention that. But so one day, this is the first part. One day, Jane had come over and she was in a relationship with somebody that was not very good for her. And I had seen the destruction of it going down. And if you don't know me, you probably can get the vibe that I'm quite outspoken. And if I don't like what you're doing to my friend, I will let you know. So I didn't like this guy. He didn't really like me because he knew. Because I would tell Jane, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to say this. You need to fuck off. Like, you know, obviously, you know, the friend that would be the normal friend, right? So one day she came over and she was complaining about the situation. And I had had enough myself at this point because I had been giving her suggestions and this, that, and the other. She still wasn't getting away from this dude. So I was already frustrated, but we started getting into a conversation about Alan, and we started talking about how, like, he wouldn't like that. He knew who this guy was as well, by the way. Like, he genuinely knew who he was. So it was hard as well because I'm like, well, what the fuck would Alan think? Like, at the end of the day, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden we started getting a little bit more irate, and I started to feel some weird energy. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I really don't know how to describe it. I felt like some weird energy and it sort of came over me, and I was talking to Jane but not really what I would have said. Do you know what I mean? And I was going at her a little bit, and so I'm like, never mind, this is 10:30 at night. Okay, very, very important. 10:30 at night. My neighbours that live next door, we'll get there. So I'm shouting at Jane right now. We're like going at it. I'm saying something, right? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear clear as day on the back door, knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks. Out of nowhere. Just like that. It snapped me out of whatever was going on, obviously. John picked up probably a BB rifle gun, whatever he had, plus a torch, because nobody knocks on our back door at 10:30. Like, the neighbours wouldn't do that. Like, nobody knocks on our door at 10:30, right? Clear as day, right? Clear as day. Knock, knock, knock on glass, okay? Knuckles on glass. We all know what that sounds like. So John's freaked out, I've all freaked out and everything like that. He's opened the door towards the kitchen and he's shone a light to the door. Now, as he shone the light to the door, I looked and couldn't see any shadow. So he's gone to the door, he's opened the door, no one's there. Looked, bear in mind, there was no, like, running away sound or anything. There was no light at the back, okay? So if somebody did run and knock 3 times and run away, we would have heard them run away, or we would have heard them step on something or trip up on something. But there was no one there. So I turned around to Jane and went, did you fucking hear that? Did you hear that? And she went, yes. And I went, no, did you hear that? She went, yes. I went, there's no one there. There's no one there. What was that? What was that? And then the next morning, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't the kids next door just playing around, right? Because I thought, well, the only way that could have happened is if it was the kids and then they sort of found a way round, because we had our fence down that separated our gardens. We had our fence down at that point. So we were like, oh, it must have been one of the kids. So when the neighbours were, like, back, you know, they weren't even there in the morning. When they came back, I asked them and they were like, no, we stayed at the farmhouse last night. Because their mum had, like, basically her mum was separated, but the dad had, like, an 8-bedroom farmhouse. So they would usually stay at, like, the really big farmhouse. So they were like, no, we were at Dad's farmhouse last night. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, did anyone come over? And I'm asking about the other kids, because the woman next door's got, like, 5 kids, right? So I'm like, well, did X and Y and Z come over? And they were like, no, we literally were all there last night. So it wasn't the kids. It wasn't a bird. When I tell you that something came over me at that time. Like, I don't know what it was, whether it was Alan coming through and then being like, knock, 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 I'm here. Like, I don't know, but we all shit ourselves at that point. And then, another day, Jane comes over. We're talking about Alan. I specifically remember going to make us all a cup of tea. Well, John had a different drink, he didn't drink tea. So I made myself and Jane a cup of tea. And as we were sat down on the table, well, she was sat on this side and I was sat on this side of the table, we decided to just start talking to Alan and seeing if we could see anything, right? Just talking like, was that you the other night? You know, what happened? What was that? That was really weird. Like, what was that? And the photo that we caught was the one that I thought I had missed. It's going to come up after I take this away. I had specifically said, Alan, if you are here, fly into Jane's hands. Oh, it gives me shivers. Oh my God. It gives me shivers. I specifically said, Alan, if you're here, please fly into her hands. And we didn't even see that, like, from the camera or anything like that. Because, you know, sometimes you can see it on the camera. Didn't even see that at all. All we saw is a hand just held out like this. I snapped a couple of photos, and in one of them, bam, we got this light, weird, orby thing. Like, what is that? What is that? I'm so glad I haven't lost the picture. Like, honestly, that is one of the core memories I have of us sitting there. There is a cup of tea under this as well. Like, you can't see it. There is a cup of tea on a table under that hand. Core memories of saying, fly into her hands. He did it! Like, he actually did it. Like, I'm sorry, but that is insane. Absolutely mind-blowing for me. Like, I've never seen anything like that direction. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, well, actually, I have, but it's not in that house. I will end this video by letting you know that once we have finished the stories of the haunted cottage that I used to rent, I experienced some other crazy stuff where I was directing spirits in a house that was even older than my cottage, that was an old coaching inn that I used to clean at for this old lady and her son. And we're going to do an entire episode on everything that I saw there. So if you enjoyed this random crazy episode that I haven't brought to you for 3 months, please hit the like button. If you enjoyed what you see and you want to see more of me on your feed, then hit the subscribe button. But until then, I am very excited to post this video and get it out for you, and hopefully you guys are wanting an episode 5. Let me know in the comments. Do you want another episode?